The desert runs dry. Tunisia, April 1943. April 17, 1943. 14:30 hours. 48 miles southwest of Maknassi, Tunisia. The North African sun is a white-hot hammer. Inside the swaying canvas of a 2.5-ton GMC truck, 22-year-old Private First Class Anthony Russo is trying not to vomit. The air stinks of petrol fumes, sweat, and fear. His M3 Stuart light tank, Lucky Lucy, sits dead on the sand 2 miles back. Bone dry. No fuel. No fight. Russo clutches an American Blitz can in each hand, flimsy. Made in Detroit copies of something the men only whisper about with envy. The German Jerrycan. One of the cans is already weeping gasoline from a hairline crack. The other has a cap that simply will not seal again after the third refill. Precious fuel drips onto the truck bed, turning the wood black, then the men's boots, then the desert itself into a fire waiting for an excuse. The convoy halts, engines idle. Somewhere ahead, Rommel's veterans are pulling back. But they're doing it with full tanks, laughing at the Americans dying of thirst for gasoline. Rousseau looks down at the useless cans and mutters the sentence every GI in the Western Desert Force has said at least once in the last 6 months. Why the hell can Tiwi make something that doesn't leak like a goddamn sieve? In the shimmering heat, half a mile away, a knocked-out German Kubelwagen lies on its side. Its cargo area is open. Even from here, Rousseau can see them. Rows of perfect, indestructible, olive-green jerry cans still strapped in place. Not one drop lost, not one cap missing. He feels it before he thinks it. Raw, burning envy. And in that moment, somewhere in the chain of command, a decision has already been made that will change the war, but not in the way anyone expects. Because America is about to copy the Jerrycan. They'll get almost everything right. Almost. The prize, a captured can in British hands. Tobruk, 1939. November 14th, 1939. Dawn, Tobruk, Libya. The Italian garrison has fled overnight. British 7th Armored Division rolls into the port unopposed, among the abandoned warehouses. A young intelligence officer named Captain Reginald Reggie Fletcher kicks open a crate marked with the Wehrmacht eagle. Inside, 20 perfectly nested steel cans. Square, thick handles, cam lever caps. No spouts needed. They pour like water from a pitcher, yet seal like a vault. Fletcher lifts one, but it weighs almost nothing empty, yet feels bomb-proof. He unscrews the cap. No cross-threading, no stuck threads, then snaps the cam lever down. Airtight. He shakes it violently over his head. Not a drop. He whistles low. Bloody hell. Later that morning, and a photograph is taken, Fletcher grinning beside the open crate, holding the can like a trophy. That photo will travel up the chain, across the Atlantic, all the way to the Pentagon. But right now, in the cool shade of the warehouse, Fletcher does something no one ordered him to do. He fills the can with water from a Lister bag, drinks straight from the built-in breather, then pours the rest over his sunburned neck. The stream is smooth, controlled, waste-free. He turns to his sergeant and says the words that will echo for years. Jerry's got us beat on something as simple as a petrol tin. Think about that. By nightfall, dozens of the cans nicknamed Jerry's on the spot are lashed to British Bren carriers and Crusader tanks. They survive grenades, mine blasts, being driven over by half-tracks. They just work. Across the desert, a legend is born. But the real secret, the one genius detail that makes all the difference, is still hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brilliant enough to notice it, and someone arrogant enough to ignore it. The Arrogance, Washington, D.C., summer 1942, July 29, 1942, Room 3C 774. The Pentagon, still stinking of fresh plaster and ambition. Colonel Elias B. McAllister, Ordnance Department, slams a captured jerrycan onto the mahogany conference table hard enough to make the coffee cups jump. Around him sit engineers from Midwest manufacturers, quartermaster corps officers, and one very uncomfortable British liaison officer, Major Hugh Desmond, who has flown the Atlantic just to watch this meeting. McAllister taps the can like it's evidence in a murder trial. But gentlemen, this is the finest piece of logistics the enemy has produced. 20 liters, 11-gauge steel, 3 handles, shaped indentations for strength, camlock cap, built-in vent, It doesn't dent. You can drop it off a 2-story building and still pour tea with it. He pauses for applause that never comes. We're going to copy it, but better. It's American know-how, mass production, cost efficiency. We'll shave weight, shave cost, shave time. We'll flood the theaters with these by Christmas. Major Desmond clears his throat. Begging your pardon, Colonel, but the design is already perfect. The War Office tested it exhaustively. There's nothing to improve. McAllister smiles the smile of a man who has never once been thirsty in a desert. Major, we don't copy, we innovate. He slides blueprints across the table. The American version, soon to be called the U.S. Army 5-gallon KM-1942, is already drawn. Thinner steel. Single handle on top only. Soldered spout stored separately under the cap. It's a cheaper cap with a simple screw thread and a rubber gasket. Desmond stares, horrified. You've removed 2 of the handles. And the cam lever. And the air breather. McAllister shrugs. Handles are expensive. Cam levers require precision machining. Breathable caps complicate production. We're at war, Major. We need millions, not masterpieces. Desmond tries one last time. Without the 3rd handle, 2 men can't pass it hand to hand in seconds. Without the cam, the seal fails under heat. Without the breather, McAllister cuts him off. We'll train the men to be careful. The room erupts in confident laughter. Outside, in the humid Washington night, Major Desmond lights a cigarette with shaking hands and mutters to no one. God help the poor bloody infantry. He has just witnessed the exact moment America decided to beat Hitler with arrogance instead of humility. And the desert is waiting to collect its debt. Baptism by fire, Operation Torch, November 1942, November 10th, 1942, 0400 hours. Red Beach, near Algiers. The Higgins boat ramp drops with a metallic scream. Seawater surges in to the knees of the men of the 1st Infantry Division. Each soldier clutches 2 American blitz cans painted olive drab, stamped with fresh white stenciling, gasoline -5 gallons. The first man out, Sergeant Frank Pop Moretti, 36 years old. Father of 3 from Staten Island, takes 3 steps into the surf and feels the cap on his left can pop loose under the pressure of the waves. 5 gallons of precious 80-octane cascade into the Mediterranean before he can even curse. By the time the big red one reaches the dunes, half the fuel is gone. Swallowed by the sea or soaked into the sand because the screw caps 1T stay tight when wet, when hot, when looked at wrong. 2 days later, inland near Oran, a supply column of the 1st Armored Division grinds to a halt. Drivers wrestle with the separate spouts, trying to jam them into the narrow necks while wearing frozen gloves. Fuel splashes everywhere except inside the tanks. One lieutenant, watching a private lose an entire can when the flimsy spout snaps off, screams into the wind, "Who the hell designed this piece of junk?" Across the ridge, abandoned French Renault trucks sit with their cargoes intact, rows of captured Jerrycans, still perfectly sealed, still perfectly usable. Gia stripped them in minutes, tossing the American cans into burning piles like trash. Word races up the chain. Eisenhower's headquarters receives a cable marked urgent from General Lucian Truscott. Present U.S. fuel can completely inadequate. Men resorting to enemy containers whenever possible. Recommend immediate adoption of German design in its entirety. In Washington, the reply comes back in under 6 hours. Negative. Production lines already tooled. Continue training troops in proper handling. Back in the foxholes that night, Pop Moretti fills a captured Jerrycan from a leaking American one. Watching the perfect stream was something close to religious awe. He looks up at the stars and says quietly, "Jerry, you beautiful bastard. I'd kiss you if you weren't trying to kill me. The American copy is in the field now, and it is already bleeding the invasion dry." The genius detail, a freezing night in the Ardennes, December 1944, December 19th, 1944, 0200 hours. A snow-clogged logging trail outside Stavlet, Belgium. The temperature is -12 degrees Fahrenheit. Breath freezes in midair. Fingers go numb inside wool gloves in under a minute. Staff Sergeant Eddie Mac McAllister, no relation to the colonel, a fact he curses nightly, is trying to refuel a frozen M4 Sherman named Hellcat under blackout conditions. The tank is one of the few still running in the 743rd Tank Battalion after Piper S. Kampfrupp tore through the lines. Mac has 6 American cans. 4 are already empty, their contents wasted when the screw caps iced over and the men had to hammer them open with rifle butts. The rubber gaskets are now shredded. The separate spouts are lost somewhere under the snow. He has one captured Jerrycan, taken off a burned-out Panzer for 2 days ago. It is the only container still working perfectly. Watch this. Mac flips up the cam lever with a gloved thumb click. The cap lifts effortlessly despite the ice. He tilts the can. Nothing happens yet. Then, he presses the short built-in breather vent with one finger. Instantly, a smooth, glugging stream of gasoline pours into the Sherman's filler neck. No splash, no gurgle, no waste, no funnel needed. 10 seconds, full tank. Not a drop on the snow. Max stares at the can like it's witchcraft. The breather pipe, a tiny 3mm tube welded inside the neck, is the detail America never copied. In the German design, when you tip the can, the main spout pours fuel while the breather lets air in at the perfect rate. Press it closed, and flow stops instantly. Release, and it flows again. It's total control, even in pitch darkness, even with mittens, even at -20. The American version has no breather. You either get violent glugging and half the fuel down the side of the tank, or you jam in a separate spout that never fits right and always leaks. Mac turns to the freezing crew and says the sentence that will appear verbatim in 100 after-action reports. One Jerrycan is worth 10 of ours. Behind him, the Sherman's engine catches with a roar. Somewhere in the dark forest, German machine guns answer. Mac doesn't know it yet, but in a warehouse in Detroit right now, engineers are quietly retooling the production line. They are adding the breather. They are adding the 3 handles. They are adding the cam lever. Too late for thousands of men who froze or burned because of the arrogance of 1942, but in time for the Rhine. The desert taught America humility the hard way. The snow is finishing the lesson. The Reckoning, From Shame to Salvation, 1945, March 24th, 1945. The Rhine River, dawn. Operation Plunder. The largest river assault since D-Day is about to kick off. Thousands of Sherman tanks, half-tracks, and trucks of the U.S. Ninth Army are lined up nose to tail on the West Bank. Engines idling, waiting for the pontoon bridges. Every vehicle is surrounded by neat stacks of new cans. Still olive drab, still 5-gallon, but now unmistakably different. 3 handles, thick cam lever cap. A tiny, almost invisible breather pipe. The American Jerrycan has arrived 6 months after the Bulge veterans threatened mutiny if they ever saw another blitz can. Sergeant Pop Moretti, now with 2 Bronze Stars and a permanent limp from Kasserine, walks the line handing them out like a priest distributing communion. Men actually cheer when they see the new design. One private kisses the eagle stamped on the side and yells, "Welcome to the war, you beautiful kraut bastard." The change happened in silence. No press release, no admission of error. Just a terse Ordnance Department memo in January 1945, effective immediately. 5-gallon gasoline. Can will conform to Wehrmacht pattern WC 1940 in all critical dimensions. Translation, we were wrong. Copy everything. At the time, Patton's Third Army races across Germany in April. The only American cans anyone still curses are the old ones used as chamber pots or stove kindling. The new ones, now nicknamed Jerry's by friend and foe alike, survive being run over by tigers. Being dropped from C-47s, being used as seats, steps, and makeshift armor. In the end, the United States produces over 19 million near-perfect copies of the German original. And the men who live long enough to use them never forget the price paid for the lesson. May 8, 1945, a supply depot outside Plzeň, Czechoslovakia. Lone German prisoner, former Obergefreiter, Hans Weber, watches G as refuel a column of brand new cans that look exactly like the ones he filled in France, in Russia, and Africa. He nudges the American guard and asks in halting English, "You finally figured it out, Ja?" The guard, Private Anthony Russo, the same kid who once watched his fuel drip into the Tunisian sand, hands Weber a cigarette and the newest can to examine. Russo grins for the first time in years. "Yeah, Hans, took us 3 years, a few million gallons of wasted gas, and a couple thousand frozen fingers." He taps the breather pipe. But we got your genius detail in the end. Hans laughs until he cries. And somewhere in the silence between enemies turned reluctant admirers, the war's strangest love story ends exactly where it began, with a simple steel can that refused to leak. Den 1.6 S fast?